Okay, so assuming that I'm live, which I am checking now, which would be nice if I could see it. Come on, YouTube, show it to me. There we are. Okay. According to YouTube, I am live, and that needs to be muted. I will pop out chat, and that will go there. Go live chat, and surprisingly enough, I'm actually on time. And a hail all to all. Now, let me just get myself situated in my chair here. You guys can enjoy staring at the thumbnail while I do my general shilling, which requires this page. And this one comes away from there, goes full screen. Okay, open all of those, close that. And I'm an idiot for doing that, because I constantly forget I need to grab my YouTube link before I do that. So open that, copy that link, close that again. Twitter should have already sent that out. So now we go to Parler. Do let me know if you guys are not getting the do let me know if you guys are not getting the notifications from any of the social medias. And let's get this out. Oh, I made a mistake there, but that's all right. I can fix that in post. Okay. So, Parler has been posted. Mine's is up. MeWe. Also, let me know if you guys use any of these services: Getter, Gab, MeWe, Minds. If there's a service you think I should be using. Okay, I can't wait for MeWe to catch up, so I'm just going to post it. Gab should have posted this by now. Also, I will... no, never mind. Don't have time for that. But I will recommend you guys go check out my friend Bleach Demon's channel. If you look in my liked videos, it will be one of the most recent ones from this morning. Let me just get my shilling on Discord out of the way. But my friend Bleach was kind enough to give me a bit of a shout out, as I gave him the impetus for, or as one of my videos rather gave him the impetus for a video of his own, which I'm still preening about because, well, I'm a prideful weirdo. And discard those changes, send that out. But his piece today dealt with folklore, and as that is something that I occasionally touch on, especially for Terra Nova Tuesday, I have a very, how to put it, and I do apologize if you guys are hearing my Discord notifications. I am trying to get this done rather quickly. This is a stream, not a video, so it goes there. Some of the Discords I am in tend to be a little busy. Some of them tend to be a little noisy as well. And some are full of, well, not full, but some are populated by edgelords who just don't know when to quit. And I'm reasonably sure one of those edgelords may pop in to, well, give me free engagement later today. And if he does, well, I'll deal with him as I have in the past, gently and kindly. I do apologize for the boom from my mic being directly in the shot today. I'm slowly trying to work out a form, and I've just come back to chat to see that I have quite a few people. I'm very low. Let me bring my mic a little closer to my face then, because yesterday I was not very low on Sultans, and I do apologize if that was sharp on your ears. That would have been a noise within the mic itself. Let me see. Okay. Hello, Bleach. Yes. Let me go through and say hello to everybody. Hello, Stormy. Hello, Bezic, Bleach, and Monkey. Hi, guys. It's very nice to see my friends showing up, and I'm being told my sound is a lot better. Excellent. Let me just get the coffee out of the way, because if I happen to knock that into the mic, it's going to be very noisy. Let me see here. Very low. Bezic says we need a First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment. I know what the First and the Fourth are. You'll have to remind me of the Fifth. And a reverse 14th. I'm not sure what the 14th Amendment was. I think that was something to do with voting, possibly. And the 19th, if I recall correctly, is the one that gave the women the vote. Yes, I think that one should probably be repealed. Not because I don't think women should vote, but because I think the only people who should be allowed to vote are people who have proven their worth as citizens. So if that turns out to be a period of citizenship, right not to incriminate oneself. I should have remembered that. Yes, because pleading the fifth is a common trope in a lot of crime shows. So, this terrible bit of Photoshop / paintwork that I did for a thumbnail this morning is to kind of give you a taste for the first story I'm going to be looking at, which is, well, probably the only story I'll be looking at, but it's something that kind of gave me the impetus for this. So, bring this one up, and I do apologize if the resolution is a bit wonky. I suspect I may be using something incorrect when it comes to setting up my screens. In any case, as you see here, police response times are a concern for downtown musicians. Now, this will be in St. John's here in Newfoundland. The RNC, that's the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary, are encouraging people to report crimes in the downtown as they happen. However, a local musician says response times leave something to be desired, which is going to be the impetus for our discussion. Need to work on that ratio. So it's something to do with the way I've got the screen set up. Okay, thank you. Rowan Sherlock is one of a number of downtown musicians who are concerned about their safety while working in the area. He says musicians are nervous leaving clubs with their instruments, and he's even heard from performers who have had their drinks spiked. A downtown coalition has been formed, including the RNC, to address growing safety concerns in the area. RNC says it's important to report and log complaints from the area when they happen. However, Sherlock says he's hearing response is not always timely. He witnessed a man being, quote, beaten pretty badly and called police as it was happening, but, quote, I waited and nothing happened. I swear I don't want to rant about weak men who refuse to get involved when they see an injustice occurring. But I'm probably going to. The coalition is meeting in the near future to help come up with a collective response to increased violence in the downtown, and there is no further piece on that. But that aside, there's also no, I don't actually stream from my iPad like a degenerate Bezic. I'm actually using a laptop. It's a very unfortunately low-powered laptop, but I think the issue is that I don't have quite the facility with the software that you guys do. But and yes, I share Monkey's hypocritical dislike of Apple products in this case. Don't you stream on a Mac, you sicko? In any case, the other story which really is connected to this story, is this one. The RNC says police have seized, quote, ghost guns for the first time in Newfoundland. And Bezic says, how the sweet fuck did I screw that resolution that badly? I boomered the fuck out of this. I did. I really did. But police say it's the first time 3D printers were used to make firearms. Okay. Bezic says, no, the Mac is why Monkey doesn't stream. Stormy points out the police times here in Newfoundland have always been slow to respond, especially in rural areas. In St. John's, I would expect a lot better, as would I. But because this is an anecdote that we're talking about, this person may have assumed that a 5-minute response time would be expectable. That's not necessarily the case. It also depends on what else the police are dealing with at the time. And as I understand it, the police are having recruitment issues, just like every other organization that fucks their memberships. You know, like, say, the veterans. In any case, the RNC says it seized 85... Now, this story is from February this year. So the RNC says it seized 85 guns and an assortment of gun parts manufactured with a 3D printer, what police are calling a first in Newfoundland and Labrador. Investigators on Thursday showed off 2 long tables filled with firearms, silencers, and knuckles. Let me just have a good close look at that image. Come on. Oh, gee, thanks for blowing that up so much. I'm going to assume... Yeah, it's very difficult to tell what I'm looking at in this image, other than, you know, the words didn't work are clearly posted on this, though. That's quite interesting. Also, is that forced perspective making that look like a 50 caliber Desert Eagle slide, or is it a Glock type slide? Can't really tell. Bleach is here. Bleach will definitely be able to give us the benefit of his knowledge. In any case, multiple 3D printers, which police say were being used to manufacture firearm parts. I will point out that anyone who has the slightest bit of knowledge when it comes to 3D printed guns knows that you can't print a 3D barrel. You cannot 3D print a gun barrel. The tolerances simply are not there. The material will not survive a round being fired through it, unless it's massively... Well, no, it's plastic. I highly doubt it could survive it. A 40-year-old Torbay man has been charged with more than 140 firearms-related offenses in connection to the seizure, including possession of firearms and the manufacture and trafficking of weapons. This is organized crime. If they were organized, they'd have something better than didn't work on painter's tape. But that's just an aside. Inspector Colin McNeil told reporters at RNC headquarters in St. John's, "We are concerned about organized crime in this province, and we're implementing solutions to combat it in a very active manner." The RNC said it began the investigation in October 2020. Why did it take 2 fucking years? More than 30 officers were involved in executing search warrants at 2 separate homes in Torbay. Police say they seized 85 firearms, 2 of which are restricted, and 9 of which are prohibited. The restricted versus prohibited thing, Bleach says it's some weird 1911 looking things, looks single stack from that perspective. I couldn't speculate on the stack size, for example. Could be a Glock with that U-shaped heel on the grip. Okay. And it may very well be some sort of weird Chinesium clone or something. McNeil went on to say, quote, "It is a significant seizure. This is the first seizure of its kind in the province that we are aware of." McNeil said a third search warrant in Pooch Cove, yes, that is actually pronounced Pooch here in Newfoundland, was being carried out on Thursday. Multiple times, let's have a look at this image here. Maybe this will give me a better perspective here. And I can actually see these supposed knuckles. Oh, okay, I see them now. If you look in the... Okay, you can see my cursor. Excellent. If you look here, these appear to be brass knuckles. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's basically a toy these days, especially when we're talking about firearms. Multiple times during the conference, McNeil referred to 3 3D printers allegedly found at the 2 homes, which themselves are not illegal to own. However, what was allegedly being made with them is against the law. So why did they seize the printers? Other than to have them as evidence. But the gun's receivers, barrels, slides, and even multiple silencers on display Thursday. I highly doubt the barrels themselves were manufactured with a 3D printer. These components that were manufactured by an individual and potentially can make it to the streets, that to me is concerning, McNeil said. 3D printed firearms are also known as ghost guns. No. That's not 100% accurate. And fortunately, I'm blessed to have an American gun enthusiast in the chat who can correct me if I'm wrong. But if I'm correct, a ghost gun is an unserialized firearm manufactured by any method, whereas a 3D printed gun is not synonymous with a ghost gun. In fact, I believe you are able in the States to get a 3D printed gun serialized, or 3D printed parts serialized. And I think in some cases it may be required that you do that. In any case, back to the story. So this person has been charged with manufacturing firearms, and that's something you can buy at a local firearms store. They are prohibited. They are certainly intended for organized crime groups. That's probably true. However, I suspect that it may not be true. This may have been something that was going to be sold on the black market. Oh, and hilariously, an RNC officer has been charged with reckless use of a firearm. Excellent. Okay, so we're pretty much done with the internet for this piece. So the... Thank you, Bleach. Bleach says, correct, you can make any non-full auto firearm in the U.S. if you serialize it. Okay. I take it, if I recall correctly from some of the exposure I've had to the gun tubers, you cannot legally produce a full auto firearm in the U.S. any longer? Or do you need special licensing for that? I'm not 100% sure. I think, for example, guys like the AK guy, Brandon Herrera, I know that he produces AKs, and dear God, I'd love to buy one from him. To be honest, I just love a tour of his fucking facilities. But I just want to look at his gun walls and drool. Sorry. At least for the civilian market. Okay. But if I remember correctly, Herrera is actually manufacturing full autos, but I believe he had to put out a significant amount of money to be able to legally do so. Or perhaps it's some sort of reconditioning, refurbishment sort of deal that he's doing. But the issue I wanted to talk about is, and this is why I brought up the Second Amendment thing, the first story that I dealt with, which was that one, the response times. If, as a civilian, you are allowed to carry a firearm to defend yourself, or, you know, being in Canada, anything to defend yourself, police response time becomes far less of an issue. Marku Milikowski, hi, nice to see you. You need a Class 3 dealer license or manufacturer's license to own machine guns made after 1986. Thank you very much. But yeah, the thinking I have, and I did use the term Second Amendment as a bit of clickbait, to be fair. What I really think Newfoundland needs, and probably Canada as a whole, is a rewrite of some of the laws in our Constitution, our Charter of Rights. Some of that needs to be rewritten from the ground up. Much as I admire Brian Peckford, the mistake that our, I guess we'll call them constitutional fathers made when they were writing the Charter of Rights and Freedoms was to not put a clause or a basic understanding that these rights exist independent of government, a la the U.S. Constitution. Bleach pops in, says, or you can pay a $200 tax stamp for private ownership of something pre-86. That's interesting. So something like, say, a full auto Thompson, you could purchase if it was an antique. And for the extra $200, it would all be perfectly legal. Good to know. Not a hunting weapon, but hey, whatever. And to be honest, one of the issues, and I do apologize for taking an aside here, one of my biggest issues with the gun buyback system that a lot of places have is that it ends up destroying a lot of historical antiques. I know one of my friends in BC had an old Japanese Arasaka, which was in pretty rough shape. If I recall correctly, that was a rifle as opposed to any sort of a carbine or anything like that. It's been years. But he had acquired this Arasaka through, we'll call it questionable means, and wasn't comfortable with having it because it wasn't legal exactly. He wasn't exactly certain of the legality of his owning it. Oh, it took me a moment to figure out. That's interesting. Bleach must have changed accounts or something. Because I have two bleaches. One has a wrench, one does not. That's very interesting. And now I'm curious as to who this bleach is. Well, anyway. And Striker pops in. Hi, Striker. So yeah. And the acronym that was throwing me was BAFTI. But I've realized since that it's the Bureau of Alcohol, Firearms, and Bureau of Alcohol, Firearms, Tobacco, and Explosives. Which, yes, I absolutely agree with Bezic. Bleach says he forgot to change. Excellent, thank you. But as Bezic says, I do agree that should definitely be a corner store. But my biggest issue with this Arasaka, he took it back because the local police department was having a gun amnesty. And I believe all he got for it was like a $25 Subway gift card or something. And when he had told me he had done this, I had said, dude, I would have paid you twice that just to take the thing so that it wouldn't be destroyed. Because all of these firearms were designated for destruction. What a waste. And Marku Milikowski agrees. He cringes every time he sees historical guns turned in. Yes. However, I do get an absolute thrill when guys will 3D print big pieces or big batches of things, take them in and go, I need money, and essentially make more money. And STORMYEYES is kindly pointing out that she wants everybody to smack that like button as if it owes them money. And Vingle has popped in. Hi, Vingle. So yeah, as I said, I did kind of use the term Second Amendment as a bit of clickbait. I'm really hoping that the fact that I have Newfoundland and Second Amendment together will get people from my province paying attention to this. The biggest concern I have is that we have a prime minister who thinks we don't have the right to defend ourselves. And yes, he says you don't have the right to defend yourself with a firearm. As far as he's concerned, we don't have the right to defend ourselves. The problem is that he is completely surrounded. Bezic says, spank the like button like it's monkey. Yes, spank the monkey. The monkey being the like button in this case. But we have a prime minister who says very idiotic things that clearly had no pre-thought ahead of them. If he had thought... Well, yes, you're right, Bezic. Our Prime Minister doesn't think we have any rights. And the problem is, as I said about the Charter of Rights, if it had been underwritten with an underlying assumption that these rights existed absent government, it would have been far better. Thank you. One of my wrenches just unhid that right fast. Thank you very much. Marko Milikowski says, your Prime Minister is probably the most pathetic commie I've ever seen. I take no offense from that. I happen to share that agreement. Monkey, no spank monkey. But yes, I have a degree of disrespect for Zoe Deschanel. Okay. Who am I to argue? If Zoe Deschanel happens to be watching this, my friend Monkey wants a date. He's a nice guy. You should date him. He's prettier than I am. And I'm pretty fucking good looking. Sean Stryker says, I'm a simple guy. I see art and party. I click like. Agreed. Appreciate it. But yes, without that underlying assumption of rights existing absent government, we are left in a position where government can take away any right it chooses at any time. For example, in researching this, I discovered that the compulsion or the stricture against compelling a spouse to testify against their spouse in a criminal or civil proceeding has been removed. That was removed during a conservative prime minister's governance, period. Prime Knight says, love the nation, hate the government, simple as hail all. Agreed. And I do occasionally love this country. Some of the people in it, whether elected or not, yeah, I have my issues. But the baseline issue I have with this particular thing, excuse me, the baseline issue I have here is that people are being told they don't have the right to defend themselves and they must depend on others to do so. Now, that's fine for Justin Trudeau to say, because he has people within arm's reach, generally, or if he's on camera, they're kind of just out of shot, who will leap forward and catch bullets for him while returning fire, if necessary, because that's what they're paid to do. I think that same ability should be extended to every person in the country. If Bleach says one of the most sacred bonds is being tossed by the government, typical. Yeah, true. The problem that the average person has, that Justin Trudeau is completely out of touch with, is that we don't have the kind of money to be able to hire personal security. We have to be our own personal security. Bezic points out something that I agree with. We just want access to the same weapons Biden left for the Taliban. UCY Beta 1 comes in with a mic drop. Everyone needs a Second Amendment. Agreed. Or something similar, something akin to it. But the biggest issue I have is that if I am attacked in my own home, I am not permitted to defend myself with a firearm, and I may find myself in severe legal trouble if I effectively defend myself in any capacity. That said, in the moment, and I will happily say this to a judge, I was defending myself, and as far as I was concerned, these guys kicked my door in. There is no limit to what I could suspect they would do. So yes, I treated them as if they were threatening my life, because I had to act on that assumption at that point. And if I catch a guilty sentence, or a guilty verdict over that, so be it. But the problem is, that should never be a concern. When the police show up, and they find a stranger in your house, in any condition, at your hand, the response from the police should be, oh, good job, citizen, thank you for helping us do our job. Let us remove this trash, and you have a good day. That should be the response of the police, no matter how long it takes them to get there. One of the other issues I have is citizen's arrest. In this country, you can actually attempt a citizen's arrest simply by saying, I am placing you under a citizen's arrest. But that's all you're allowed to do. You're not allowed to detain them. You're not allowed to physically restrain them, which kind of removes the purpose of a citizen's arrest. Bleach says, just don't use an assault stick. It's black and scary. Crap, I have to take the black tape off my baseball bat now. And I don't actually own a baseball bat. I can make far better weapons than a baseball bat. Marku Milikowski says, what I wouldn't give for a finished Second Amendment. Having Russia as a neighbor should be enough of a reason to have one. Yes, and I have a suspicion that somewhere the ghost of Simu Haya is smiling upon you. Maureen Peters, hi. Finally managed to drag the groceries inside. Hello. Oh, and UCY, Beta 1, and Bleach are having a conversation. About assault sticks, I assume. But yes, as a fan of Shadiversity, I am very fond of stick. Stick is a good weapon. But yeah, the big issue I've got here is that a person should have the right to defend themselves, no matter what, in any circumstance. Part of the problem is that we are ruled by a political class that knows that they tell lies, and thereby assumes that everyone else does as well. What I would recommend well, I mean, I think we all... I suspect Simo very well may be the most recognized Finn in history. At least, certainly in the circles that I travel in. And Primed and Marku now are having a discussion about being Scandies. Okay. But yeah, when it comes to police response time, especially in this particular situation, where someone was being beaten pretty badly. Now, I'm sorry, I've worked as a bouncer. I know what a bad beating looks like, and I know what someone getting their ass kicked for being an asshole looks like. The thing is, I hope you're being hyperbolic, Maureen. I'd hate to think you actually broke fingers carrying groceries. And hello, Total Blackout. Aloha. The thing that really kind of irritates me about this whole situation is that we're basically being told that we must act like our Prime Minister, be defended by other people, in other words, put your personal safety in the hands of someone else, and pay for the privilege. We can't all do that. And actually very few of us can do that. And while watching someone be beaten in front of you is somewhat disturbing. And again, I'm trying not to go on to the weak men rant, but if this was bothering you so much, why did you do nothing to try to stop it and simply call the police? The police, it's not a genie in a fucking bottle when you dial 911. They're not there. And it seems like people think that they should be. That's not how the world works. And if your biggest concern about your personal safety is how long it's going to take the police to get to help you, my God, you've lived a protected life. Just to go back to when I was bouncing. And Bezic points out, yeah, they're doing as they've been trained. I assume you mean the citizenry and not necessarily the police. Total Blackout painting. Some 5'4" empowered woman with no gun is super scary. They're really not. Larry Torney, Soldier of Three Armies, quite famous as well. If I remember right, wasn't the Soldier of Three Armies lionized in a song by Sabaton? Anyway, sorry, I'm getting off topic. Excuse me. So yeah, just to go back to this particular incident. This person, you might be quite right about that, UCY Beta 1, but this person was, and I'm going to assume a man. Let me just check here, actually. I need to check the name. Rowan Sherlock. Okay, so they do refer to him as he. So, this is a grown man, one hopes, who's carrying some form of heavy item, being that he probably had a guitar case, who watched two men fighting, one assumes, or possibly some form of, well, the way it's quoted here is just being beaten pretty badly. And he says he called police as it was happening, and waited and nothing happened. Okay, most fights, or most physical violence happens in a matter of seconds. The average fight that I have been in has been over and done in essentially less than a minute as far as the actual physical violence part of it goes. Yeah, no shit, you're allowed. So, yes, while your adrenaline is going and your fear response makes time slow down, which, for the record, is part of the reason men have faster reflexes, while that is true, that time will slow down, when you say you waited and nothing happened, did you stay there until the police arrived? Clearly not. The question I really have, because this is an eyewitness account and they are notoriously untrustworthy, when you see someone being beaten pretty badly, do you mean he got kicked after he fell down? Or do you mean someone was whooping his ass with a stick, just working him over? Like, there is a degree of questionable detail here. Regardless, one of the things that really irritates me is that this is a man watching another man being beaten pretty badly, even if it's only in his own estimation, and essentially did nothing but call the police. Did you at least have the forethought to go, I should record this? Probably not. Did you at least think, I should see if there's anyone else around witnessing this? Probably not. Did it occur to you that if this happened in the downtown area of St. John's, on a night where you're likely to be playing music, the police have a fairly heavy presence there, and you probably could have simply walked around a corner and found a cop? Yeah. No, probably not. The biggest issue I have here is that people are so terrified to get involved when they see something unjust happening that almost all of them have this idea that, no, this is someone else's problem. I don't need to worry about this. And this is what leads to women being raped in public. This is what leads to customers at a fast food establishment jumping all over the place, throwing things, acting like absolute baboons. And no one seeking to keep order. You end up with a lawless society this way. And in places like Texas, Montana, Wyoming, places where you are legally allowed to carry bleach, I believe you're in Virginia, and I would be, yeah, Vingle, I'm being intentionally vague. But bleach being in Virginia, I don't know Virginia's laws as far as constitutional carry, and I'm not 100% clear on what the difference is between constitutional, open, and concealed. But I suspect that if you are in a jurisdiction where anyone can legally own and conceal a firearm on their person at any time, then you end up with far less random crime, certainly far less interpersonal violence. Let's see. Yes, total blackouts, right? People use the excuse of, I might get sued if I intervene. But I think that's mostly just, it's a fear response. It is a sheep going, where's my shepherd? UCY Beta 1 says he can explain it to me, but it's a lot for YouTube chat. Bleach says Virginia permits concealed and open only. Okay, so it's not a constitutional carry state. So when you are able to conceal a weapon on your person legally as a law-abiding citizen, you are immediately a potential danger to any criminal that seeks to predate on you. And right there, you are left with, you are immediately granted greater powers of self-defense than any Canadian. I can't, let's just take this for example. This is one of my collected Opinel knives. The blade on it is less than 1 inch long. Now, granted, it is razor sharp. I could shave with this. But this little item, if I fold the blade down and I tuck this in my pocket, and for whatever reason a police officer sees me take it out to use it or searches me, which is far more unlikely, but if that happens, I can be suspected of premeditation of a crime if I say something like, this is a bit of a bad neighborhood, I'm carrying it just in case, or if I go to the point of saying, I am carrying it to defend myself. Now, for any police officer, law enforcement agency, my FBI monitor, Tim, anyone who happens to be actually watching this, I want to make it very clear. I'm a badass, and I don't need a weapon to fuck someone up, if they fuck with me. And I will absolutely show Total Blackout's comment myself there. But I have developed skills over my lifetime that make me dangerous. I don't use them aggressively. I will use them defensively. That said, if I were carrying that weapon, or, that tool, that little knife, or even this thing, which is a number 13 open L, much, much bigger. This is actually the pride of my open L collection, and every opportunity I have, I am going to show it off. Yeah, it's basically a folding sword. And it's solid. To the point that I could probably beat someone halfway senseless just with it closed. But would I carry this for a self-defense item? Of course not. That'd be retarded. But the thing is, if I'm stopped by a police officer and they ask me, why are you carrying that? And any part of my response has anything to do with a possible interpersonal violence, it is considered a potential, I could be charged with any number of things. Chief among them, carrying a weapon with the intent of committing a crime. Because saying that you might have to use it to defend yourself is premeditation. Can't mute myself on stream, but boy do I want to. Let's see. Chat has moved on a little bit. Mark, we have... Total Blackout says we have concealed carry in Idaho, but we passed constitutional carry a few years back. Excellent. And at some point in the future, I will look into the difference between constitutional and concealed. Actually, as a simple question, let me ask you this. Where concealed carry allows you to hide a weapon, does constitutional carry require that you carry it openly? That would simplify the question quite nicely. I don't know, dude. I'd think twice about fucking with a guy carrying that. Yes, absolutely. The problem is that if I'm carrying it with the intent of using it to defend myself, I am technically in commission of a potential crime. I am premeditatively. It shows that I have the mens rea, mens compos mens. I forget what the Latin term is. And Total Blackout says, no, you just don't need the concealed permit anymore. Oh, I like constitutional carry so much. Constitutional conceal without need for a permit. Okay, so if you carry openly in a constitutional carry state, that's perfectly legal as well, I assume. But yes, my feeling is that I should be permitted, if I choose, and the funny thing is, I have done this, I should be permitted to strap a broadsword to my back and walk down the middle of the, not the middle of the road, but walk down the street, doing as I please. And I have done this. I was stopped by a police officer in Alberta once while doing that. I was not in any sort of costume. I was on my way to a Renaissance fair, but I was in no sort of costume, and I was carrying the sheathed blade, the scabbarded blade, in my hand, just walking. And when I was stopped, Total Blackout says he's 100% seen dudes carrying ARs at the zoo. I can't really think of anywhere better to carry a rifle. Never know when you might want that zebra steak. Open carry is technically always legal, but not really. Yeah, and I've seen enough auditor videos to know that it tends to draw more trouble than you want. Constitutional carry overrates your need for concealed carry. Ah, excellent. Okay. Okay, yeah, that's going to be another thing I'll have to talk to somebody about. But I have to rewind in my head now to get back to where I was. Open is legal, but it's advised to not have a mag in when you are in stupid states. Yeah, I could see that, but then again, that's just simple good safety anyway. It is relatively quick to load a rifle or a pistol and rack that first round. Certainly compared to having to undo a trigger lock, open another lock to get your ammo, load your magazine, and then actually load. Bezic is no way in hell. I'm not sure what that one's about. Oh, I see. That's about the unloaded magazine. Prime Night. The Ruskies are afraid of another finish my death. Don't worry, right next to city people. Though city people are fucked. Oh, and another moderator's unhiding things for me. Excellent, thanks, guys. But yeah, the baseline issue I have is not the weak man. UCY Beta 1 makes a good point. An unloaded gun is a fucking paperweight. Yes, or potentially a club, depending on how long it is. But my biggest issue is the right to self-defense. That should be written into the Constitution, and it should trump pretty much everything else. I mean, if you're going to have free speech, you need to have the right to defend what you have said physically if need be. Now, obviously, that would mean that if there is an altercation at something like a speaker's corner, then you damned well better have a good reason for having the fight in the first place. If you didn't start the fight, there had better be a damn good reason why the first punch got thrown, or the guy who threw that first punch deserves to go to jail. Bleach points out, Bezic, this is true, but you don't have Palestinians in Chicago. Well, I don't think there's a high population of Palestinians in Chicago. Bleach says no one said anything about having a round in the chamber. Also true. Prime Knight says he was a light leftist until he discovered Carl Benjamin during Gamergate, and that turned me. Now living in a smaller town, looking for a small house with land to buy. I've actually been looking lightly into, the possibility of homesteading, though I don't believe it's possible here in Canada any longer. At least not in a climate that I'd be comfortable in. And yeah, good for you, Prime. Get the hell out of the cities. I'm sorry, but cities are cancers on this planet. And especially here in Canada, where 6 cities basically determine the 6 cities basically determine the outcome of every election we have, which, is probably why when there are mass waves of immigrants, they are gently shuffled into the cities as opposed to the rural areas. Now, as I've been trying to get to, the very baseline issue I have here is the right to self-defense. It should not matter why or how someone ended up in my home if I defend myself against them. It doesn't matter if I invited them in and then the conversation turned sour. It doesn't matter if they kick the door. Come to think of it, it really does matter if they kick the door in, because if they kick the door in, they're going right back out through it. If they're lucky, they'll go intact. But the biggest issue I have with the situation in Canada right now is we have rising gun violence and a commensurate rise in gun restrictions. One of those has to go. And the best way to get rid of the first is to get rid of the second. Yeah. So, yeah, if you told people, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give people the ability to buy firearms for self-defense. Total Blackout makes a good point about being safer in Palestine than Chicago, and I would absolutely agree. And yeah, Primed and Marku, you're both essentially speaking the same biography as I have in the last few years. I would have said that I was probably a slightly left-leaning centrist. I've always been fairly middle of the ground with my politics, or middle of the road, rather. The last few years, whether it's the Overton window shifting to the left, or it's my attitude shifting to the right, the effect has been the same. I would put myself in the conservative camp at this point. Would I say I was ultra right-wing? No, though I do have some very right-wing views. But I still have some slightly left-wing views as well. For example, I do have some positive opinions towards animal rights. though they generally tend to be more the traditionalist conservative attitude towards animal rights. Yes, animals have the right to be left the fuck alone, and if you kick my dog, I will kick you, kind of thing. Which might be more of a property rights thing, come to think of it. But anyway, yeah, the idea that you don't have the right to defend yourself, that's not in Canadian law. When Trudeau said that, he was ignoring the law. Yeah, I know, no surprise. He has as much knowledge of Canadian jurisprudence history as he does of economics. When he looks up and says things like, "Oh, the budget will balance itself." Bleach, that's my dog, my property. Sure. I don't necessarily feel that way about dogs. I tend to view dogs as a separate category of family member. Not as prioritized as the humans, but certainly more prioritized than non-family members. Or, sorry, more prioritized than human non-family members. Total Blackout says he treats his pets well and eats his steaks rare. That's animal rights. Agreed. And Mark, who is basically in the Trans-Texan category as well, from the looks of things. Yeah, I would far rather be able to live in the States and exercise my own rights, even with a government that's making it harder for me to make a living, than I would be in Canada with a government that's making it harder and harder for me to earn a living and taking away my right to defend myself from those who end up in desperate straits. Yeah, so coming up on the end of the stream here, if anyone's got any questions you guys want to ask, now is the time. I will ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment. You know, the Rumble link is still there. Please. I believe I picked up a couple of Rumble subs after yesterday's Sultans stream, so I believe I'm over the 25 sub mark. And the sooner that I can get to live streaming on Rumble, the better. I actually responded to one of Spoon's videos earlier today with something of an essay, and talked about how I suspect that YouTube will be suffering, at the very least, within the next 5 years, because they're... Please put a hat on for the remainder of the stream, just because. Total Blackout, Newfoundlanders wouldn't think about secession if their lives depended on it, which it really kind of does at this point. I don't think I have a hat, but there you go. How's that for you? A little more. Now you can't see my eyes. But I very rarely even wear hats. Don't really care for them. I have a bit of an itch on my ear. I do apologize. Total Blackout. As far as secession goes, Newfoundland used to be its own country. And there's an excellent book by Greg Malone called Don't Tell the Newfoundlanders that kind of looks at some of the shady, potentially conspiratorial stuff that happened. Blackout says, cover up that shine, that's a sin. Well, there we go. Let's see, Bleach. I will say that the threat of a civilian having a weapon in most areas acts as a deterrent, and actually having it is a bonus. Yeah, if you look at places with, and I'm not aware of too many, but if you look at, yeah, buffed and polished. If you look at places where you have low gun control and high populations, and I don't think there are a lot of them. Florida might be one of the few in the U.S. Probably Texas as well. But if you look at places with low population and, high population and low gun control, you inevitably find that, I kind of like that I look like Vincent D'Onofrio, because I'm really cool with that, but now I'm very tempted to just... Yeah, and I've also been accused of looking a bit like Jack Nicholson in the past, and Mark Messier, which is an interesting combination. But I'll take that as a compliment, Marco. Thank you. Just no one yell pile at me when I'm walking down the road. Oh, wait, no, that's Gomer Pyle. Sorry. But, yeah, the Vietnam GI helmet. I'd have to put Born to Shill on it, I think. But, yeah, the places where you have high population and low gun control seem to have far better outcomes when it comes to gun violence than places that have Shazam Sergeant Carter. Places with low gun control and high populations seem to do a lot better when it comes to gun violence than places with high populations and high gun control. Because, go figure, criminals don't give a shit what laws you write. They'll do as they please until they get caught. And then they'll probably do as they please until they get caught again, and again, and again, if Canada's any indication. Oh, very nice. 1911 is a nice pistol. I'm no FUD. I'm no big fan of firearms in general, because I partly haven't had an opportunity to expose myself to them, especially pistols. I'm much more of a fan of pistols than I am of long guns. Oh, just a moment. There we are. Had a knuckle starting to lock up on me. But one of the things that also kind of irks me about Canadian gun laws is I would very much like to be able to own an Inglis Browning from the 1940s. And the history behind that I've talked about before. But that is very much a piece of Canadian history, and it's an absolute hilarious thing to realize that, oh, the company that made this pistol now makes dishwashers. Yeah. Come to think of it, I believe Husqvarna in Norway? Or it's Scandinavian, I know that. But they also, I don't know if they still make rifles, but I know they did make rifles at one point. Bleach says, exposing myself to firearms gets me in the chipper. Sure. Not that way. But, yeah, my personal thinking is that I would very much like to own an old Inglis high power, and I'd like to own the new FN high power. Hi, Sasquatch. You are, in fact, very late, my friend, but thank you very much for popping in. Do smack the like button on your way back out. Don't let the door hit you in the ass. Bleach points out that Husqvarna made SMGs and pistols as well. I really need to go and look to see what kind of pistols Husqvarna made. I'm going to guess they were probably Mausers and Luger types. In any case, guys, I've got about 2 minutes left, so, Sasquatch, since you just popped in, I will give you a crack at a question if you have one to ask. But I think, to be fair, the question I asked in the thumbnail is very much rhetorical. Sasquatch mentions a Wolverine 22. Is that a Whitney Wolverine? Because I am a big fan of the aesthetics of that gun. Are they orange? That was actually the first question I asked when I first discovered that Husqvarna made firearms. Do they make them orange? And if they don't, why not? Is it true I'm actually Mothman? Yes, Whitney. No, I don't believe I'm actually Mothman. And I'm not sure which Moth, the sidekick of the Tick, who I believe was named Arthur. The Moth man from the DC Comics, which would have been the... Oh, give me a moment. I can't remember what he was called. Or potentially the Mothman from the Mothman Prophecies. Let's see. Bleach Demon, serious question. How do they expect those in the backcountry to deal with grizzlies and Kodiaks? Yeah. This was one of the very first points that I brought up. A lot of people died when you destroyed that bridge. Bridge. Tristan Armstrong points out the desired end state is for there to be no people in the backcountry. Everyone lives in cities, and the wilderness is left pristine. No, the wilderness is left for the elites to enjoy. How do I expect those in the backcountry to deal with grizzlies and Kodiaks? Yeah, you know, it's not even necessarily a giant predator like that. Here in Newfoundland, we occasionally have coyote and lynx to worry about. And really, by coyote, I don't mean small coyote. I mean what's basically the hybridized coy wolf, the coyote wolf hybrid that's kicking around. And given that moose here have no predators, these animals are going to be able to fuel up significantly better than they ever have before. And they will be much larger. Here in Newfoundland, we used to have a species of wolf all our own called the Newfoundland wolf. Obviously, for about 200 years or so, that position on the food chain has been vacant. And now we're getting to the point where that very vacancy is being filled. As always, nature abhors a vacuum. Coy dogs in the middle Atlantic. So that's coyote-dog hybrids. Sasquatch says, I bet they were tasty. The wolves, I doubt anyone actually ate them. I think they simply killed them because they were attacking sheep and other husbanded animals. In any case, guys, I am over time, and I do very much appreciate your time, so I will take up no more of it, and I will say I hope you're having a good day. I've never seen a small elephant up close, but yeah, you're probably not wrong, you see why I beat a one. As I understand it, Alaskan moose are roughly 10 to 15% larger than Newfoundland moose. Newfoundland moose get real friggin' big. My God, are they tasty. Okay, a 50-pound dog does not frighten me in the slightest, Bleach. In fact, I once tried to pet 2 actual coyotes up in Alberta when I lived there, not knowing they were coyotes. I assumed they were some sort of potentially uncared for, slightly abused shepherd crosses, and damn near called them to me. Stay a while, kick up your feet, and destroy a bridge. I'm still missing this reference to the bridge, but as I said, I have to go, so I hope you're all having a good day. I hope you continue to have good days. And as always, rise and rise again until lambs be